Alright, Trackless, and welcome to Break the Fourth Wall. So, in this video, I will be going over my last subclass update to my Hunter for the Age of Triumph. I will be going over all three subclasses, armor, and weapons that I use on my Hunter. I will also be going over the specific stats you want to have on each character. However, I will also put a timestamp in the description to each subclass. That way you guys can go directly to the subclass you are interested in. But before we get into the video, if you guys enjoy it, hitting that like button and giving your opinion in the comment section below would be greatly appreciated. So, the very first thing we will be going over is the subclasses, armor, stats, as well as the weapons last. So let's actually start with the subclass. We are going to do the Bladedancer first. Now, I will admit, none of my subclasses at all have changed. The only thing that has changed is the armor, as well as the weapons that I like to use. So, as for the actual skill tree, I like using skip grenades. I do use Shinoble's Vow, so double skip grenades is amazing. I still like using blink whenever somebody's coming at me with a panic smash or a Nova bomb or anything of the sort, or just super in general. I like jumping over them and blinking in the air. That way it totally misses me. It's great. It's a good, offense and defensive perk, so I like using blink. I know a lot of people don't like it. They like jumping in the air constantly, which is ridiculous. However, I like using blink. That's just me. As for my super, I like using Razor's Edge. In order to having that arc wave to get to my opponent when I can't get to them by swinging them, that Razor's Edge definitely helps out a lot. Pushing that arc wave to them in order to kill them or multiple targets. As for my melee, I still like using Fast Twitch, which reduces the cooldown of Blink Strike. That's self-explanatory. For passive perks, for all my subclasses, I use Path of the Unknown as well as Way of the Fearless. For next perk, I like using Quick Draw. Again, self-explanatory, weapons ready immediately, as well as Hunger and Blade, which kills with Arc Blade and Blink Strike immediately regenerate health. Now, when it comes to your Bladedancer, you want to have as much intellect and discipline as possible with just a little bit of strength. Strength doesn't really matter that much, but as much intellect and discipline as possible is great. Now, as for the gear, I like using helmets that have better already. Unfortunately, this one doesn't have better already, but this is one of my better helmets. I also like having Ashes 2 assets as well as Angel of Mercy. Those three perks is what I go for mostly, looking for on my helmets. Unfortunately, once again, this helmet doesn't have those three perks. But, like I said, this is probably one of the better helmets that I have right now currently. So, I'm still hunting for tier 12 gear. As for my exotic, I like using Shinoble's Vow, which gives you new tricks, which improves skip grenade, and you gain an additional skip grenade charge. Now, this has been nerfed, but it is still a good exotic to use. I still like using it. I also like fastball on it. However, fastball isn't really needed, which increases grenade throw distance. The reason why it's not really that needed is because when you throw a grenade, let me phrase that. When you throw a skip grenade, you want it to bounce off things. You want it to hit walls, the floor, ceiling if there's one above you, in order to get the most effectiveness out of it. Bouncing it off walls, I like a lot, especially when it's going around corners. As for my chest piece, you definitely have to have a chest piece with arc armor. As soon as you get that super, and you kill at least 2 people. Hold that thought. You want arc armor, obviously, because arc armor, you get increased armor when using arc-based subclass. Obviously, this is your Bladedancer. Going back to what I was saying, for arc double down, when you get 2 kills with your super, you definitely get a little bit increase to agility, so it makes you a little bit faster. However, once again, if you still can't catch them because you have arc agility on, that extra arc agility from arc double down, that Razor's Edge definitely helps out. As for my class item, I actually have Wolf's Wood Cloak. It's a tier 12 cloak, 3525. And as for my artifact, I like using the Memory of Perun, which enemy guardians with full supers and all enemies with low health are highlighted. this is definitely good for PvE and PvP purposes. Now, for weapons definitely has changed a little bit. For PvE, I like using the Fatebringer as well as the Vision of Confluence. I do not have a Legendary Vision yet. I'm still trying to get it, but I definitely want a Legendary Vision. I do have an exotic Fatebringer, but for PvE purposes, I want to use this Fatebringer over the exotic one because of having my heavy, which is my sleeper simulant. So, as for my special weapons, I like using the Queen's Choice for PvP purposes because it's definitely a great sidearm to use, and I prefer it over the Wormwood. Now, this is the Wormwood that was originally used for. I'm sorry, this is a Wormwood that you originally could have gotten from the vendor, which is the Future War Cult vendor, before they allowed the weapons to change on a weekly basis. This one has true sight, high caliber rounds, hand loaded with hidden hand. Just trying to give it that a little bit more range is good, or you can use Zen Moment. However, my Queen's Choice does not have as good rolls, but it does have more range, more stability, more reload speed with a little bit more rounds in the magazine. With my Wormwood, I can at least get 1 kill definite. With my Queen's Choice having 15 rounds, I can get 2 kills definite without having to reload. So Queen's Choice is definitely the choice for me. Now, I definitely want an Ex Machina from the raid. I had a couple back in the day, but I definitely want to get another one. For now, I'm using my longbow synthesis whenever I have to do damage from a distance. As for my heavy, I like using Sleeper Simulant for PvE purposes or using my Bone Crusher for PvP purposes. As for my Ghost, it's the Sunlit Shell. I think this was a year 2 trial shell or a year 1, one of the two. I think it was a year 2 shell. But I like using the Sunlit Shell. It is also a tier 12 shell at 100% with 35-25 going into it. So yeah, that's pretty much my Bladedancer. Now, let's move towards my Gunslinger, sorry. So, as for my Gunslinger, I like using Trip Mine Grenade. For my jump, I like using triple jump with Trip Mine Grenade real quick before I even forget. I like using Young Ahamkara's Spine, which gives me double trip mine grenades. I also like using Deadeye, which significantly increases the accuracy and damage of Golden Gun, as well as Incendiary Blade, which throwing knife catches enemies on fire, dealing additional damage over time. As I said, Path Unknown and Way of the Fearless for my passive stats, as well as Keyhole, which Golden Gun over-penetrates and can damage multiple targets, as well as Gambler's Dagger, which you gain an additional throw-in knife. So, 2 throw-in knives that do dot damage, which is damage over time. Definitely great. So, like I said, for armor, I definitely use Young Ahamkara's Spine, or if I'm not using Young Ahamkara's Spine, I will use the Aclia Phase Symbiote, which gives me an additional grenade shot, or I may even use a Celestial Nighthawk, depending on what it is that I'm actually doing. And I will only use a Celestial Nighthawk in PvE. I will never use it in PvP. Celestial Nighthawk on boss fights, PvE only. So, with that said, as for my chest, I would obviously use a chest piece that has solar armor, as well as boots that have solar double down. Everything else remains the same. As for your stats, I probably would go as much intellect, as much discipline as possible, or you could even possibly go with discipline and strength in order to keep getting those extra throwing knives. It's up to you. And last but not least, let's go over my Nightstalker subclass. So, as for the grenade I like using is Void Wall Grenade. I have tried Skip Grenade as well as Vortex Grenade. However, Void Wall Grenade seems to just kill things the most, especially when they're trying to back up. I like jumping, and I like using triple jump. For PvE, for PvP, I like using Quiver. For PvE, I will use Black Hole. For PvE and PvP, I will use Envenom. And sometimes in PvE, I will use Vanish and Smoke. But I like Envenom just to do that extra damage. Now, I don't know how some people do it. You know, a lot of people catch me in their freaking wombo combos too often, throwing both of them at the same time, and it's like, I can't get out of it. But somehow, some way, they can always get out of mine, which is kind of weird, but whatever. Passive stats, once again, Path Unknown and Way of the Fearless. And what's even weird is I still use Lockdown for my wombo combo, which grenade and smoke effects last twice as long, allowing strong territory control. And they still seem to get out of it. I don't understand why. But anyways, I still like using Lockdown. And if I am for PvP and PvE, but if I'm doing a boss fight, then I will switch to Light of the Pack. That way I am more of a support subclass for the rest of my team. And Light of the Pack gives you, what Light of the Pack does is killing tethered targets creates orbs of light for your allies. So for Light of the Pack, I would use, for this, I would use Light of the Pack, Envenomed, as well as Black Hole in PvE. As for my last perk, I would actually use Shade Step, as well as using Sealed Ahamkara's Grasp to gain an additional melee charge, and melee damage may reload primary weapons. So I like Sealed Ahamkara's Grasp a little bit better than the Graviton Forfeit. That's just my opinion. Graviton Forfeit pretty much just gives you Elusive Shadow, which unlocks the subclass. Unlocks the Nightstalker subclass node Shade Step for free once you press R3. But most of the time, I will use Sealed Ahamkara's Grasps. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And that, my friends, brings us to the end of the video. Like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you disliked it, share it if you felt it was helpful. Let me know in the comments below what you would like to see as a future video on Breaking the Fourth Wall. Feedback from you guys is amazing because it really helps the channel to grow. Thank you guys for all of your support. I'm Reckless, and remember, own your success, and I will see you guys next time.